Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm on the air and I'm live. I'm Marjorie Phoenix, the author of the book, Who the Hell Do You Think You Are? Speaker and publisher. And I want to welcome you to an author's reading and discussion, The Path to Healing After Trauma and Abuse. The next hour, I'm going to be sharing with you all how you can start the healing process. But before I do, I think I need to go back and check and make sure. I had quite a few folks signed up for this event, and I want to see if I have any messages or comments of people knocking and can't get in. And I hope that everyone can get in once they're ready, but there will be a recording here for you and also on YouTube as well. So that's there. Let me get out of that. Wait, blocking my view. So so the next hour we're going to spend together, and we're going to be talking about the healing process. There are three things to this process, three key things to this process. And for those of you that follow me either on Instagram or Twitter or Tumblr, my hashtag is Marjorie Phoenix. You will know that I use the hashtag self-love, self-healing, and self-care frequently. And I have to tell you that I would not have been able to have found myself and discovered self-love and discovered self-healing and self-care had I not gone through this process, had it not been for the trauma that I went through. And the woman that you're looking at today, I'm still a work in progress, but however, I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior for myself. I'm a warrior for my two beautiful girls and for every other victim out there who cannot defend themselves. And I think I'm going to put my headset on because I know with the sound, it breaks up. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on just to make sure it all comes up. Perfect. So I know me saying that is quite a bit of responsibility that I'm biting off, but it's true. I am taking on this responsibility because I've discovered the process of self-love. Self-love has helped me understand that my experience, this experience that I had, it was never just about me. I realized this from the first night I spent on the floor in a woman's jail. And it was made very clear to me when I was writing my book, Who the Hell Do You Think You Are?, that the book wasn't about me. The book was for all the women that have gone through or will go through a process like this. And yet I suffered through it, and it took me some time to swallow that pill, but I can embrace it now. And I can embrace it because I can work with women and help them find themselves and help them answer the question, who the hell do you think you are? There is quite a bit to this process, I have to tell you, whenever it comes to any sort of healing. This is not done from a mental health perspective. This is really holistic. This is really about self-discipline. This isn't about going back and looking back, but mainly about being present with where you are today and being able to move forward and to meet and climb those walls and jump over those hurdles whenever they come in your life. But a lot of this, a lot of the process that I went through, I'm not going to be able to cover all of that in just 1 hour tonight. I'll leave a lot of that for my weekend retreats. I have a New Beginnings retreat. Now, this is where we get to come together, unload, empty ourselves, and rebuild ourselves through self-love, through self-care, through self-healing. There are various tools that I use, and I'll share some of them with you tonight, but there's nothing like a small community of women or people coming together that have a shared experience, and they come together to help each other heal and support each other and share their stories. It is very powerful. And my first retreat is going to be right here in my beautiful little beach town in Florida on September 26th. And it'll be held in a lovely private condominium overlooking the beach. Spaces will be very limited because I want to keep it small. So if you are interested or know someone that could use that kind of experience, please reach out to me here or go to my website, marjoriephoenix.com, and contact me there, or email me, okay? So now let's start looking at the whole healing process, right? Because that's why you're here. And I want to make sure and check and make sure I'm not getting any notifications. So, okay. So when we look at the healing process, you know, you'll hear people say, oh, you know, you got to forgive. That's an important part. You should probably get some therapy. Oh, you need to start meditation. How about acupuncture? All of these different things people are going to suggest to you. And you can do all of them, or you can do none of them, or you can do one of them. You will hear some things tonight that may not resonate with you, and that's fine. Keep what might work for you and throw away what doesn't. That's why during my retreats, I'm able to give the clients there an experience where they have all these tools so that when they go home, they have something to work with or something to turn to when they feel themselves going back to that place of hurt and pain again. And, you know, when we talk about hurt and pain, everything we hear about hurt and pain, it advises us to avoid it at all costs. You know, do something to, you know, not think about it, go out, be with friends, here, have a drink, you know, that sort of thing. But listen, this is your process and this is your life. And one trauma or experience doesn't make you. 2 or 3 don't make you. What makes you is your attitude. How will you handle the stuff of life when it comes at you? Knowing what your triggers are, knowing the things that will set you off, how are you going to respond? I think this is a good time right now, a good opportunity to read from the book, and just a small excerpt from my book. And the book is available on Amazon right now. And I have about 7 pages of what I call afterthoughts in the book. And this one is afterthought number 4. And it's just a brief paragraph I'm going to share with you. The situation could have turned out to be much worse. It could have broken me, never to be fixed. I've grasped the realization that I'm broken, but I refuse to stay that way. Sometimes I feel like the world is against me, and I would say to the world out loud, I am more than this. It seemed no one was listening. Trapped inside this glass house, confused, sad, and angry. Yet my sane thoughts would override them all. I was not about to let a temporary situation determine a permanent lifestyle for me. I know the odds were against me, as it is with most of us, because we aren't prepared for life's disasters. It's not like car insurance or homeowners insurance. Is there insurance for emotional and mental distress? Something that can pick up the pieces when it's all been shattered? Something to repair the damage done by a passerby? I share that because I realized that even though I was telling my story, I had all of these thoughts going on the inside that I felt was a bit of wisdom coming from the lessons that I was learning through all of this. And that's why I included the commentaries in the back of the book, because it's true. We're not prepared for this, these types of things happening to us. We don't fall in love and get in a relationship being guarded by someone possibly victimizing us in some way, abusing us and causing trauma, the person we love doing harm to us. You know, that's not what we're built for. So when something like that happens, it causes so much stress to our body in so many different ways, mind, body, and spirit. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because that is where the healing has to start and take place. I describe it like a scar or wound that's etched in our skin like a tribal mark. And we walk around as members of the wounded victims tribe. I don't want that for us. So let me just start with some of the things that I did. I said that I was going to share some of my philosophies and some of the things that I did with healing. Now, this took discipline, but I needed to start somewhere. So I'm just going to tell you that I'm a deeply spiritual person. So I spent a lot of my time in the Bible, and I meditated on what I read. And I read about who I was as a child of God. I spent alone time with God, rediscovering myself. That was the beginning. That was the foundation. That was the thing that I started meditating on. People did suggest to me, you should meditate to start to quiet your mind. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't shut it up. So I had to go somewhere. And I started there. And sometimes, you know, I would read and then I would just ponder what I've read. And sometimes I would do that with music in the background. You know, sometimes not, sometimes it was just quiet. And most times I would ask questions. And I would just sit in silence, you know, for, 3 minutes, if that's all I could bear, 5 minutes, and just wait to see if I would feel or hear something. And most times I didn't hear anything. But I needed to anchor myself, and I needed to get grounded in the truth of who I am. It wasn't about who someone else says I am. It's about who God says I am. And so in the scriptures, I started to find what I call these love letters. And it helped me see who I was as his child. So I did this every day. I just started doing it every day because I figured I don't have anything else. This is all I have right now to hold on to. I'm going to do this. So, it went from 3 minutes, it went to 5 minutes, then it went to 10 minutes. So what was happening, okay, was I was beginning to empty myself. I couldn't hear anything before because I wasn't empty. I was still filled with fear and anger and anxiety. I was still in this victim mode all the time, just spewing and being victimized. So a renewing of my mind had to really take place. But this was just the beginning. This was just one layer of it. So the more time I spent doing this, the more I felt self-love grow within me. And you see, this not only happened on its own because, I just sat there and did it, but what started to happen was sort of a transformation. I had to also have a self-acceptance as well. I had to sit for those 5 or 10 minutes and I had to accept this is where I am today and it's all right. I had to allow myself to feel the emotions and to let the emotions take me to a point where I would cry. I would just bawl and let it out and grab onto things and put my face in things and, to the point where I could feel myself coming undone. And then I was okay. You ever had that kind of cry before? That's all you have to do is just cry and release. I felt better. I allowed myself to be vulnerable. I allowed myself to be by myself and accept who I am in this very moment. I accepted my pain and I accepted my experience. And I did that every day. Well, I didn't cry like that every day, but every day I had this experience. And sometimes I would just find myself crying from this love that I was feeling, this love that I was getting from God. It was quite powerful because this was now the unfolding of new beginnings for me. Now, forgiveness, I know you've heard this. People are asking you, did you forgive? Did you forgive? Forgiveness, yes, forgiveness is a big part of this. And although I can't go into the whole forgiveness process, because I actually need an entire show for that with my thoughts on forgiveness, but I will tell you, ask yourself this. Do you need to forgive the other person that's done harm to you? Or do you need to forgive yourself? And be honest with yourself about this. Are you holding resentment and anger towards yourself because you feel like you should have known better? You should have chosen better? Do you feel like you've disappointed some people? It's a whole nother process. But it's a necessary process because where we think forgiveness should be directed, sometimes it doesn't. So you start with this, right? You start with the anchoring, the foundation, the thing of getting back to you. These are the building blocks, and you begin to build upon it. And this helps build you up. It's a rebuilding through the healing process. Now, when you've done this, you can extend your meditation practice of sorts of self-love in different ways. As I started to self-accept, as I started to feel what I felt, what was going on, and I didn't push it away, I didn't avoid it. And I took it one day at a time. I have today, this is all that I have. Then something else started to happen. And through self-love, once you have self-love in the healing process, then you're going to want to make yourself a priority. So you build upon that. And one of the ways that I built upon that was I had to treat myself better. Because when you love someone, you treat them well, don't you? Although we've seen love expressed in different ways, but we know better. And so now is your time to shower yourself with self-love. And how I did this was, well, here's one thing that I absolutely would suggest you do, and I'm going to be doing this with my retreat clients, is my garden of love. Now, this is a very therapeutic process to, and it's not busy work, because that's one of the things that we tend to do. People tell, well, you need to get busy. Well, here's how you can take a task and be mindful about it and make it purposeful. So with the Garden of Love, it's a wooden box, a planter's box. And this is where we're going to take some soil and we're going to plant. We're going to, plant seeds for flowers or vegetables. But before we do that, we're going to close our eyes and bury our hands deep into that soil and massage it and meditate and feel it and experience what that soil feels like against your fingers, squishing it in your hand. And at the same time, you're going to be sending love into the soil through your hands. That is so beautiful. Now think about this. This is so therapeutic. You put your love into the soil. You plant the seeds there and you shower it every day with love. And when you start to see what sprouts from this garden and you look back, and there's this connection, but it's a very mindful process. It's very therapeutic and it's very beautiful. So after we do this during the retreats, you get to take this back home with you and watch this garden flourish with love. There are a few other exercises that we do there in practicing self-love. They're mindful, the writing exercises, the art therapy, all sorts of things that can be done that can help you be in the moment, but also taking you through the process of moving through it and healing. So self-care, self-love, and self-healing, I look at that as internal, external, and eternal. So that's really your mind, your body, and your spirit. And if these three are not aligned and not balanced, you will never find your way out of hurt. For the longest time, the story in my mind would not go away. I don't care what I would do. It would not go away. And I couldn't force it. So I had to start embracing some things and finding a way to recondition my thinking, recondition my brain. And I heard someone talk about I don't know if any one of you have ever heard about the story with the flea and the elephant. And the flea jumps on the back of the elephant and says, will you take me, to the town over yonder? And the elephant says, sure, I'll take you there. But before getting there, the elephant stops and, plays around in the pond, and the elephant takes a detour and goes to another town, and months go by and the flea never makes it to the town. And why? It's sort of like our brain. They use the analogy with our brain, our subconscious mind and our conscious mind, and how it's always the trauma that's there is like the elephant. And no matter what we're saying to our brain that we want to go here, it's taking us back there. And we can't seem to stop it. So the trauma affects the brain. And then it in turn affects our bodies. And then eventually it affects our spirit. We don't realize, but I bet if you start to look back at the progression in which things are happening, you'll see how the abuse and the trauma affects the way you process information. Your mind is so overwhelmed with what's happening and what's going to happen, you aren't as discerning, really. the frontal lobe part of your brain, which is the part that rationalizes for you, it starts to shut down and the rear end picks up. And then you're led by all of these emotions. You're not thinking clearly. That's why the last month we were talking about divorcing a narcissist. If you're going through a divorce and you're divorcing a narcissist, you should come to my retreat. You need to have something to anchor you and take you through this process, because it's going to take a toll, and it's going to do something to your mind. It's going to do something to your body and eventually your spirit. And by the time as this fight is all over, you'll be a mess. So if you can do the work to help you stay strong and anchored during that process, that would be a whole lot better than after the fact. But a lot of us don't know that, because as soon as we're into it, it's like a tornado. It's a whirlwind, and we get caught up on it, and that's it. And we're getting messages from everybody giving us advice about what we should do and how we should do it. And we've got a lawyer that's got their own agenda, and we're not taking the time to sit still and just listen within. I mean, I got to tell you, a lot of these things, they're within us. The answers that we want, they're inside of us. But some of us are so wound up. We're so filled up with so much. We can't hear. We're numb to it. I'm going to check one more time and see if I have any messages from anyone that I want to check my email as well and see, because someone was going to send me a question and I don't know if they did. So, all right. So we're going to carry on then. All right. So what happens is, with all of these emotions, with everything going on, this starts to send signals to your body. So all through your cells, your organs, a message is being sent. And the longer you stay in the stress mode, the more wear and tear it is on your body. So you'll notice that some of you can't sleep. All you want to do is sleep. You don't eat enough. And when you do, it's not good. You're not drinking enough to stay hydrated. And when you do drink, the beverages of choice do not hydrate you. It's like wine or alcohol. It's nothing that's good for you. You constantly let your brain tell you the story of what has happened and what can happen next. You are becoming mentally exhausted. Then you have all these other things that are just taking over your world. I got to the point where I wanted to shut my brain off, and I didn't know how. And everywhere I looked, everything I saw, things that I heard, a smell, it would remind me of my experience. And I would feel it right in the pit of my stomach. Every time I got an email from my ex, every time I had to go to court, I got a court order, my stomach would just twirl, my head would spin. I would go right into fear. I could go a week and feel like I was strong, but as soon as my ex did or said something, I was triggered. I was back in fear. And I couldn't live like that. And I got to tell you a story, because just this past Monday, I graduated with my associate's degree. And before I got out of bed that morning, I knew it was going to be a good day. I had already thanked the Lord for everything that was going to come to me. And I got up and I did my rituals, or everything that I do in the morning. And I went to the post office box and I picked up a beautiful card from a friend with a Starbucks gift card. And, it was beautiful. And then I had to notice that there was something at the desk for me. So I go to the desk to pick it up. And it's a big fat envelope from my ex's attorney. Something else he wants again. And I think to myself, you know, my God, what else do you want to take from me? And I smiled as I was walking back to the car with this envelope, and I thought, I had already said this was going to be a good day, and it is going to be a good day. And, in the past, I would be triggered, I would be, and I would be scared and in fear and calling my mom and doing all this stuff. And I didn't do that. I took it out. I looked at it while sipping my coffee, and I thought, okay, I'll handle this tomorrow because today is my day. I kept feeling in the past like I was this damsel in distress, always, always in distress. I don't want to feel like that anymore. And you know what was a big turning point for me too? When the best advice I got from someone was that they said that no one was going to save me. No one. So that means I am my own hero. You are your own hero. There's the self in the love, the self in the care, the self in the healing. So being empowered with the tools and the know-how to rise above all of this. When you're going through this trauma, your brain is looking for a way to process it. The trauma is affecting your body and your energy is drained and redirected. And when you stay in the stress and the emotion of the pain, your body keeps thinking it's going through the past trauma. So it's living in the past. I dealt with that for the longest time. I could wake up in the morning and within 10 seconds of opening my eye, it was like I felt this fear. And, I had this thought, and then I had this fear, and then I had this anxiety. And then it hit my body and I felt it. And there it was again. I was back in that state from one thought, went into fear, and it went into my body. So I started recognizing it. I said, good morning, fear. Good morning, anxiety. I know. It could happen today, but nothing could happen today. Let's look at the possibilities of nothing happening today that I should be afraid of. And just saying that and just breathing in agreement with that and feeling my body just relax in that before I got out of bed. I do recognize it and acknowledge it. Did it go away right away? No. But the more I kept doing it, the more my body got used to that. There's another thing a lot of us aren't doing, speaking of breathing, is we aren't breathing when we're going through stress. Have you ever found yourself holding your breath while you're under stress? I mean, sometimes it feels like suddenly you take this breath, like, have I not been breathing that entire time? Well, what's happening is you're having these shallow breaths. But when you're faced with these thoughts and the stress, what I want you to start doing and just really be deliberate about this, because the first thing that's going to happen is that you're going to tense up. And then when you tense up, you're going to breathe shallow. Breathe 5 to 10 deep breaths where you can feel your body, you feel your belly, expand out. You want to fill your stomach with air and release. I guarantee you will notice a difference. Your muscles will relax, your shoulders, your face, your jaw. I carried a lot of that just tensed up in my jaw. I think I was even, pressing, like putting my jaw together at night, my teeth, and grinding them. And, your body is just responding to all of that. So you've got to find the thing to help and relax. You're the captain of your ship, and your body is your temple. So figure out how to move your body out of that tensed and, grind up state into a more relaxed state so that you can open up yourself and go through the healing process. Now, if you are still feeling some anger, if you're still feeling some sort of resentment or pain every time you think about what has happened to you, then that means that all of that is stored in your body. And it will end up manifesting and expressing itself in some form. Okay? So that means you're focused on it. You're holding on to it. And when we focus on it and it builds up, then most of us end up on medication. And then we can't function without the medication. It's not good. That's why the self-healing part is so important. So what happens is the emotions start to define us, okay? So we walked around and we're either one emotion one day of anger, and then the next day it's sadness. The next day it's confusion, the next day it's frustration, and we carry these clouds of emotions with us, and then it's welted up in our bodies. People see it. They feel your energy. And so you can't let anyone in. You can't let the good things of life in if you're holding on to that. And as much as we tell ourselves, I talk to women who say, well, I want to heal and I'm doing stuff. But yet every time I see you, what are we doing? We're talking about the same thing. We're talking about what happened when. That's not healing. It's time to change the story. It's time to change the conversation. Okay? So when you start to peel back all these layers and then you get to the core of who you really are, then you have released yourself from some of these negative emotions. Each layer represents a significant piece of your life that has left something to grow there. So those layers there that happen, it's pain and hurt. And it may not have just been from your abuse and trauma. There could have been from some abuse in your childhood or some trauma in your childhood, but it's always a layer upon layer upon layer. We end up in this cocoon where we don't know ourselves anymore. And believe it or not, emotions of trauma can become addictive. We end up staying in this cycle of self-abuse, and we're choked off by our own minds. So let me just tell you what that looks like. Abuse of alcohol. Now, everyone has their definition of what excessive would be, but if you need it, then it's becoming a problem. And now there's some self-abuse here as well. Sexual activity for the sake of it because you don't want to be alone, because you feel that as an expression of love. You're opening yourself up to someone that isn't probably good for you. You're letting someone in the most private, intimate parts of you. Eating unhealthy and not treating your body right. When we sit and we, eat a whole pizza or a bag of chips, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of it. I've done it. I wrote in my book how, as I was going through my divorce, I decided not to consume alcohol while going through this. I would have destroyed myself.
not even a glass of wine. And I tell you, I love my wine. I love my wine. My family history and tendency told me that it would be disastrous for me to do that. So you've got to love yourself in order to make yourself a priority in this. Abuse already leaves you feeling damaged. Don't continue it. Give yourself the best. Transform your mind. So once I did that, I started to change my attitude about myself. I started to treat myself better. I detoxed. Okay. Now, nothing major, but I had already dropped like 30 pounds, 30 or 40 pounds. Okay. But it wasn't in a healthy way. I was about town and people would say, "Oh, you look great." You don't want to do this diet. It was, a stress diet. And I wasn't eating. I didn't want anything to do with food. I couldn't stomach food. But when I started to recognize and become self-aware, I wanted to keep the weight off and I wanted to lose more and I wanted to get strong because one of the things as I'm going through this fight, it's something about being attacked. And, you're either going to retreat back or you're going to push back. And I was tired of retreating. And because if I had retreated, I would have lost the most precious thing in my life. So I had to push back. So I had to get strong. Okay. So I started with some simple things. And one of the first places I started was what I was putting in my body, like the foods I needed for energy. What gives my body what it needs? Veggies, fruits, water, protein, things like that. And then I really got into juicing and making smoothies. And I created what I call my smoothers, where I started juicing things like the green stuff, the kale, the celery, the spinach, carrots, stuff like that. I would juice all of that. And then I would take that juice and put it in a blender. And then I would add the fruits to it, maybe frozen fruits, but whatever. But I would look at the food and think, okay, what do I need today? What does my body need? And I would create these smoothers based on that. So I started doing that as a breakfast because I'm not a big breakfast person. And then I said, my body was telling me it wanted less meat. So I started listening to my body. And this is important. As your mind shifts, okay, because remember, all of this is connected, mind, body, and spirit. You're going to start to get signals. Your body is going to start to tell you something. Hey, I need exercise. I need water. I need protein. It's going to tell you that. So this started to happen organically, because my body is responding now to my thought patterns. Okay, so it's already wanting better. It's craving nutrients. It's craving more water. It's craving sleep and exercise. I was having nightmares and scared to sleep. So I also started exercising. Now, for you, it can be anything. Whatever it is that you want to do, nature walks, hiking, outside, just make sure it's outside. Being outdoors and exercising is the best thing to do because it's going to help you clear your mind. So I started running, something that I didn't ever dream that I could do. And then I started boxing. And that really did something for me. I started to feel empowered. And that's something also that we're going to be doing on the retreats. And, you don't have to be professional. You don't have to train like a professional. But it was about strength and power. And it actually became a form of meditation because what I had to do was focus on my form, on my posture, and on my punches, while in my mind I was saying a mantra. So that's a great form of exercise. It empowers you and it strengthens your body. And it's a good form of meditation as well. So for your external, which is your body, you can move more, okay? And you want to allow your body time to rest as well. You want to give your body what it needs so that it's functioning at its highest peak while it's going through the healing process. Every time I talk about this, I always think about those of you who are from this generation and remember the Bionic Man. When they did the opening for that show, they talked about how they build him up to be better, stronger, faster. And I think about that. I said, that's what we're doing here. We're rebuilding up to be better and stronger and smarter. Okay? So meditation helps for the balance. That's going to be good for your body. You want to get out into the air, get some sunshine, get some vitamin D. The other thing too, sight is very important. When you look at something and it's colorful, it automatically changes your mood. So if you could have the smoothies in the morning, which is good, you're putting all these different fruits and vegetables, but even if you made a bowl of colorful fruit like pineapples and orange and strawberries, I mean, just looking at those colors, that makes you feel good right there, and if you don't like plain water and you need to be drinking more water, adding lemon first thing in the morning, and then adding your cucumbers and raspberries throughout the day. And I know a lot of you have probably seen stuff like this on the internet talking about that. But, doing those things, you've seen them. Now, if you're doing them, great. But you will be surprised. Those things, little things, they make a difference in how you're feeling about yourself. I have coffee some mornings in my china. I use my china coffee cups or a little teacup, whatever it is, and I sit down, and sometimes I have my tea like that, and I make dinner sometimes, and I use my best china, and I light a candle, or maybe I burn an oil, a fragrance oil, and I just love on myself because I deserve that. So make this a priority. Okay, make all of that a priority. Now, I don't start my day without a glass of room temperature water with lemon. Then I usually do my yoga stretches and meditations, and that's about 10 minutes. Then while that's happening, my coffee is brewing. I have my cup of coffee. I sit down. I have my daily devotions. For you, it could be a book of your choosing, whatever is going to give you positive reinforcements for the day, okay? But I am getting my mind and my body prepared for the day. I don't look at social media or email or answer phone calls until I have done that. And then once that's over, depending on what my day looks like, then I'll, probably go exercise. Then, after exercising, I'll come back and do my smoothers. So, I love myself now. And I don't define myself by what has happened to me. And every day gives me a new reason to love myself. And doing this work, being here with you all tonight, the fact that you would acknowledge this and come on and share this space with me, that is so affirming. And I appreciate that. God has given me a purpose and has shown me who I am now, and I have work to do. And it's bigger than me. It's not just about me. And you will discover through your healing process that what you went through, so that experience and the things you're going to learn from it, what are you going to do with it? Who are you going to be now because of it? I accept where I am in the healing process today. Tomorrow, I'll be at a different, place. Tomorrow's another day. And I have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring. But I know that if I continue to practice self-love, self-healing, and self-care, as life hands me challenges, it's going to be okay. So the path to healing after abuse and trauma is a path of new beginnings and a reclaiming of your life. You're not a weaker person because you were a victim or abused. You are no less powerful because of the trauma and it sets you back a bit. You actually have been given the power to take this seed of adversity and plant it and grow it into someone with strong, deep roots. You know, if someone asked me, oh, when does the healing begin? When you're ready. It's when you're ready. I'm going to read another short excerpt from the book. And this is the Afterthoughts of Afterthoughts 4. Again, I'm going to finish that up and close us out with this. So there comes a time in our life when we must dig deep and go within. This is where God resides. We have to go there and ask the questions and listen for the answers. Some of us, in fact, most of us are afraid to do this because we're afraid of what we might hear. But how will we ever find our way out of a situation if we do not seek? How will the truth ever be revealed to us? There's so much I have learned on this journey that I hear come out of the mouths of so-called experts and thought leaders, and I think, wow, they aren't privileged to this information. God shares it with everyone. We hold the answers within us. All the answers to the questions, to the issues that plague us are within. And there are so many questions, aren't there? As time went on, the questions went from, why me? What am I going to do? To, what do I need to do today to move life forward? Who can I bless today? I had to dig a little deeper and step outside of myself. I had to be sincere and open to receive answers. Sometimes the next step was to just breathe and do nothing, or to just look outside my west-facing window and see the sunset in all its glory. Sometimes it's to take a walk on the beach and just feel the cold sand between my toes. On a conscious level, we know what needs to happen in order to elevate ourselves above a situation. We just have to be open to receive the answers. What I now know is I am a child of God. I am a queen. He has set a royal crown upon my head and made me queen. I've won favor with the king, and he's attracted to me. He has chosen me because of my inner beauty. You are a queen as well. With that comes a right to live an abundant and beautiful life. With that comes a responsibility to reign over our thoughts and actions. Now knowing who I really am, I've made a decision. Will I walk in the majesty and the worthiness to have everything that is rightfully mine? To live the life I always dreamed of living and becoming the woman I've always wanted to become? Or will I let life defeat me? Do I die living a mediocre life in lack and poverty and strife? No, I will live and not die. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is your decision to choose life and everything that comes along with it. Life presents us with opportunities to awaken our divine nature and become the highest expression of ourselves. These opportunities are typically show up as crisis. These are teachable moments. They will evolve us into our own experts. When we learn to go inwards with all situations, we will find that the time of temper tantrums, grief and anger become less and less. We don't need to hold on to those negative feelings. It really doesn't serve us and automatically turns all of our manifesting energy into retraction energy. It takes away instead of giving. We all have something to give. And going through some sort of a trauma or abuse don't let it take from you. Don't let it leave you feeling empty and less than a person. Use the lessons from that, use that experience, and still find a way to give to the world. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. It's an honor to be able to share with you. Until next month, God bless.